Welcome students to EPG Pathshala. Today we would be talking about one module within the History and Philosophy of Social Work. My name is Dr. Ruchi Sinha. I teach in the Center for Criminology and Justice of the School of Social Work within Tata Institute of Social Sciences. This module is the Taxonomy of Social Work, and this is part 3. If you have been following the previous modules, you will realize and remember that we are doing David Howey's presentation of taxonomy of social work practice. This is an attempt to help social work students understand what are the different dimensions of practice and perspectives underlying those practices. The objectives of this present module that we would be discussing right now is to develop your understanding of social work practice from the interpretivist paradigm. This will help you contextualize the social work ideologies from this paradigm. It will help you the diversity within seekers after meaning paradigm in social work practice, and you will be clear about client-centered approaches from where the strengths perspective emerges. So seekers after meaning is what the quadrant is called, which was called interpretivist by Burrell and Morgan in their model. As a recap, you would recall the model is based on the nature of two key dimensions of analysis: subjective way of approaching or viewing the world and the objective way of approaching or viewing the world. And the second dimension is regulation and radical change. So regulation basically talks about maintaining order in society, and radical change talks about conflict, which is the precursor for social change. The interpretive paradigm seeks to explain the stability of behavior from the individual's viewpoint. They view the subjectively created world as it is in terms of the ongoing processes. It emphasizes the spiritual nature of the world, and that spiritual nature, how it embodies within the individual as well. Is known in most of the sociological paradigms. The philosophers within this field of practice, which we normally tend to read or align with, are Kant, who formed the basis for this paradigm, and the others are Weber, Husserl, Schulz, who furthered this ideology. The interpretive paradigm, as you see in the figure, if you locate yourself on David Howey's figure, is the subjective regulation dimension, and that is the figure 1. Now, if you look at this figure and you follow me, it is concerned with the understanding of the fundamental nature of social world as it is experienced at the subjective level. So that is why the subjective format of this quadrant. It explores issues relating to the nature of the status quo. What is status quo? How it is experienced? How is it viewed? It also explores social order, consensus, social integration, cohesion, solidarity, and actuality. So, thus, if you look at all these words, you would be able to understand that this approach tends to be nominalist, anti-positivist, voluntarist, and idiographic. Now, why do we say that they are nominalist? They are nominalist because they assume that social reality is relative, and the social world is mainly the names, concepts, labels that help the individual structure reality. But they also say that these labels are artificial creations to aid the individual to understand the world. As I said, they are anti-positivist because they reject, as in the fixist paradigm, who said that it is possible to observe behavior. The interpretivists here say that it is not possible to simply understand behavior by observing it. They believe one must experience it directly. They reject that social science can create true objective knowledge of any kind. So as a result, they are voluntarist because they explore the fundamental question of whether humans have free will, and they're idiographic as the inquiry here focuses on getting within the subject, inside the subject, exploring it, and there is a detailed accounting of the background and the life history of the person, situation or the context. Thus it's obvious that this paradigm sees the social world as an emergent social process which is created by the individuals concerned. Now if you go, now the next is understanding how David Howe interpreted the interpretivist. Now it's interesting, interpretivist means interpretation and David Howe calls it the seekers after meaning. Now please look at figure 2. Now seekers after meaning is a very profound label that he has given, which says that we seek the meaning behind the experience of an individual. It emphasizes that social world according to the humanistically inclined can only be understood subjectively. The subjective emphasis here therefore overlooks the processes of the larger social world and assumes that social affairs can be conducted in a regular and ordered manner. The social work processes here thus interpret individuals' action in an attempt to understand how the social world appears to the client or the subject. So for example, if I am the subject, you would see that how Ruchi Sinha is looking at social work practice. If I have to see social work practice from your viewpoint, so I would say, I would like to explore that how the student on the other side of EPG Pathshala is understanding social work practice. Thus, social reality for you as a student and for me as a teacher would be very different, even though we are within the same context. Thus, social reality is a precarious balance of intersubjective shared meanings, which may be negotiated, it could be sustained, it can be changed through one's everyday interaction. Thus, this social reality over a period of time is either reaffirmed, and if it is not reaffirmed, it will change because in the given social encounter, we will give it another meaning. Thus, instead of working with individuals as objects, here the social worker attempts to capture the experience of the subject. This has led for a paradigm shift from quantity to quality. The broad interpretive strands in social work that we have normally seen in the field is client-centered approaches from which the strengths perspectives has emerged. A brief overview of these two will be now delved into. Please listen to me carefully. Interactionist social work gives an emphasis on the interactions between people. People are seen here as acting purposefully. Their actions take into account what others say and what others do. And then we interpret these actions, then we get meanings out of these actions. So now do you understand? Seekers after meanings. It is within the interactions that occur between individuals that situations become defined and social reality takes on its meaning. And hence, I'm sure you will be able to go back to certain incidents which I'm sure your parents viewed it differently and you viewed it differently. And you were often, I'm sure, befuddled that why do my parents see it differently and I see it differently. And here this paradigm will help you understand how do you deal with your parents and probably how your parents are going to deal with you. Thus, for the social work practitioner, it is important to understand the experiences and you contextualize these experiences within those subjective meanings. It is important to remember that these meanings are further refined in the social context of the school, the peers that you have, the social institutions such as marriage, family, my workspace, etc. So in contextualizing the meanings of the subject, the social construction of the experience is understood. What does this mean? It means that I have experienced a situation. For example, you are experiencing the present module sitting at your home. When you're sitting there, you're experiencing what I am talking, but you will give meanings to what I'm saying based upon your experience and not based upon my experiences. Now, this social construction of the situation is very important and central to this practice method. Thus, practice here revolves around helping the client recognize. Please remember, recognize, value, and own their experience, and within that shift the construction, alter the meaning, which finally changes the experience. So I repeat here that you have to help the client to recognize, value and own the experience, and this will help the client shift the way they have been experiencing that particular situation. In interaction social work, thus, defining the problem is the most important thing. It elucidates the client's needs and experiences. So you realize that the starting point is the client, and this is one of the most important premises of social work, that social work begins and ends with the clients, and interactionist social work starts from the client defining the problem for themselves and for you. The clients here are recognized to help are here helped to recognize the problem and then map the various choices that are existence for the person. After choosing the path amongst these various choices that the client has come to decide, or with a discussion with the social worker, the client will be helped to assume responsibility for their actions. So the client decides what the problem is, the client decides what the options are, and then the client also decides which options is he or she going to choose to begin the process of change. It is important for you as a social worker to understand the client's behavior for self as well as for the people they associate with. So an important thing here to understand is, so while my focus is the individual, I am not delinking the individual from the social reality that they exist in. But the space of that social reality in the process is slightly limited. Now this will lead to a profile of the problem, highlight the conflicting demands, and finally give a pathway of varied options that are available to the client. So for example, if there is a school dropout with whom you are interacting with, and the client is saying that the problem is that he is simply not interested in studies, and the options available for him is probably he wants to get into music, into dance, into acting. Your job there is to help him explore the various options that are in front of him, the consequences of those options and the choices that the client would be taking, and the input that the client would have to give to be able to take that option vis-a-vis the other options that is being imposed upon him. So in this practice, the assessment involves understanding the processes by which the problem emerged, it got identified and was maintained or even amplified for that matter, and finally how it is experienced by the client. So I hope you realize that what we are talking about here is, it is completely the client's subjective notions or experience of the problem, or what he calls a problem. There is a possibility that what your client is seeing as a problem may not be a problem at all, but it is your job as a social worker to understand why the client is seeing it as a problem. Thus, the assessment phase would describe the problem and understand for whom is the problem problematic. In simple words, one needs to judge whether the problem is seen by the person or by others who are visualizing or seeing your client. In short, the questions that are answered in the assessment phase are: what is the matter? Why now has the problem emerged? How does this behavior affect the self or the significant others in the person's life? And finally, what is it that needs to be done, or rather, what is it that your client wants to do? So now that we have defined the problem and we have assessed the problems and your client has come up with different choices, the aims of this practice is to produce greater understanding between all participants so that clashes in perceptions and expectations are addressed. Thus, the focus here is to redefine the processes and not change the person. So David Harvey here emphasizes that the aim here is to help and not cure. So if you remember, in the fixes paradigm, we were trying to change the individual, we were trying to treat the individual, and here the emphasis is, here we are trying to help the individual, we are trying to help the individual come to terms with his or her social reality. If the aim of this practice is not to change but to help, so obviously the method would be different. The method here would be one of dialogue. Here the labeler and the labelist that is the labeled and the labelers, will talk to each other and they will evolve a solution. The important thing here is that the person with the problem is an active participant as well as a decision maker. So you are not leading your client. The client is walking the whole process himself or herself with the assurance that you are there to support him or her. So this approach is against artificial environments such as institutions, prisons, etc. And they are actually the forerunners of community-based initiatives. The interpretivist paradigm, or the seekers after meaning paradigm, has given us the client-centered approaches. Within the client-centered approach, the human beings are made aware of their own thought processes, and they are helped to be aware of their self-consciousness or be self-conscious and have the ability to associate themselves with the feelings of others. This attitude has been the core element of social work practice for decades. But there are various ways of looking at this, and they have been put forth differently by different scholars. So here in this paradigm of practice, social workers are expected to be empathetic and client-centered in their approach, bringing into use their intuitive capacities. It is important to emphasize here that such a degree of empathy is a repercussion of years of experience either in personal life or in the field, and thus one defining concept and word and practice here is empathy and not sympathy. The core principles of social work here, which determine client-centered approach to a great extent, are your need, or the social workers need to be non-judgmental. It is very important that this principle is kept at the core of practice in this paradigm, and you have to accept the client as they are. You cannot impose your values, your norms upon the client. It is not a science of healing or treating the client, but you're offering help whenever and wherever is possible. However, in the process of making it client-centered, we have to be careful that somewhere, sometime, we do not become self-centered or we don't become over-enthusiastic in helping or ensuring that the pace of helping is exacerbated. We have to walk the process at the pace and the time which is comfortable with the client. Now, this strategy has also been criticized that social workers often tend to become explainers and tend to take the role of an expert, and this paradigm is against this process. It does not want you to become an expert. Your role here is that of an enabler. You be with your client, you help the client, but you do not tell the client, I think this is right for you or this is wrong for you. The questions here would be, do you think this is what you want to do? Are you comfortable doing this? Would you want to try this out? The shift here is that the client will take full control of his or her own life. The focus is not here on carrying out a particular activity. The process here is in being with your client. So a social worker has to be very careful here, and your intuitive helping should not become expertise helping. Linked to the previous critique of to this particular approach of practice is the fact that while here the social worker is emphasizing on being with the client system or being with the client, somewhere it is important to understand that there is a lot that is going on within the individual which also needs attention. So in the process of being with the client and understanding how he or she is interpreting the social reality, we as social workers tend to overlook these processes. Now, what are you entailing, or what is the client looking at, and what is it that you're looking at times creates a dichotomy in this helping relationship, and thus it is important to be very, very conscious of what you're doing and what is it that you're emphasizing upon, and also be conscious that this practice paradigm has a few limitations. A lot of the limitations in this paradigm is assumed to be addressed by the process of dialogue and communication, and hence if the process of communication is open, it is transparent, and the social worker is ready to recognize what are the limitations of this practice, the helping relationship can help your client in a manner which would help the client resume his or her lifestyle the way they want to. However, if we are not conscious, this practice paradigm can possibly be a little more damaging than helping. The aim here thus is not to become a professional healer, but to be an explorer of meaning. The social worker needs to be with the client with a sense of dignity, respect, and most importantly, equality. No one is above the other, and we have to be conscious that we don't create a hierarchy in this relationship. Strongest perspectives that have emerged from the client-centered approach, which can be seen within the seekers after meaning, is the strengths perspective. Strengths perspective is seen as an individualized way of interacting with the client system, and it has a collaborative effort or a collaborative association with a whole lot of stakeholders while working on different interventions. The concept here is to empower the client to steer and direct the entire process and arrive at a desired outcome. There has to be a maximization of client self-determination and making them the center of the decision-making process. In making this plausible, the strength perspective has been immensely helpful. So instead of the pathology-oriented approach focusing on the client's problems and deficits, the strengths perspective emphasizes primarily on the abilities and talents. So for example, if you have a school dropout who has come to you, instead of saying that, okay, tell me, which subject do you find most difficult? Why is it that you find studying so difficult? I would probably begin with the child saying, tell me what are your interests, tell me what do you think that you're best at, what is it that you enjoy doing the most. So the transaction here or the interaction with the client here is not where you're failing, but where exactly are you an expert yourself. The social worker thus continues to identify the abilities of the client and helps the client convert those abilities into bigger strengths and help the client convert his failings or her failings into strengths. So thus the steps that are taken are enabling the client to understand, I'm strong here and I can be strengthened here. The belief in the dignity and the worth of the individual thus is central to this practice paradigm, and it helps the social worker engage with their clients in a much more deeper fashion, and hence meaning of this relationship or engagement is much stronger. Thus, as I just said, instead of focusing on the weaknesses of the client and the attached liabilities of those weaknesses, this approach believes all individuals have got certain talents and certain abilities. And these talents and abilities may be untapped and they may be undetermined. So if we are able to help the client understand that this is the reserve of strength that you have within, the transformation of the individual based on his or her own understanding of self would be quite phenomenal. This would help the client understand that they have the capacity for growth, which acknowledges both the being, that is the individual, and the becoming aspects of life, that is, what is it that I am now and what is it that I can become on my own without any external help. By doing so, the individual is encouraged to surge forward on the same path through these strengths. This acts as a stimulus to trigger further growth and development and mark greater fullness. Here, students, I would like to draw your attention. I'm sure you have read enough about many achievers who have been school dropouts, and they have become role models for others today. And this has happened primarily because, besides other factors, that they tapped into their strengths and did not continuously think about their backdrops or the liabilities that they were forced to adhere to in this ordered social world. Thus, strengths perspective believes that people have the inner wisdom to decide what is best for them. And the job of the practitioner is to hone this wisdom and bring it to the forefront. There is no best method to proceed with life. for people who mostly come from different realities, and this must be recognized at all times. And thus, all school dropouts cannot be dealt with in the same manner. Each individual is different, is unique, and each has different strengths and has got different liabilities. Thus, there is no universal solution for the client's problem or the client system's problem, but one which is self-determined as people do the best they can. The strengths assessment thus brings into focus the client capacities and capabilities as well as their aspirations in life and the possibilities that are available to the individual and the exploration of the community resources which are there within the reach of your client system. There is no place for judgment and only acceptance and sincerity in this helping relationship. So finally, if I summarize the client-centered approaches, the seekers after meaning, or the interpretivist paradigm, instead of asking what is wrong, the practitioner here needs to find out what is going well. So interestingly, if I take an example from the medical world, instead of you going to a doctor, and if you remember, the doctors of the old school, after they would have heard your problems, they would turn around and say, so tell me, how are you doing in school? So tell me, how is your football going, or how is your reading going, or how is your music going? Why did they ask you that? They asked you those questions to make you understand physically you are unwell, but in the social world probably things are doing well and we can overcome the physical hardships that you're going through. Similarly, here in this practice paradigm, we know the client has come to you because there is a problem. So instead of putting that as a priority, we put that as the secondary notion and we help the client understand, oh, but you're so good at drawing, oh, but you're so good at understanding. And in fact, some of the most famous chefs have probably emerged because of the strengths paradigm. Thus, the seekers after meaning practitioners argue that individuals are mere puppets who react to external social forces. They view individuals as intricate and complex beings. They believe different people experience and understand the same objective reality in very different ways. Thus, interpretivists argue that in order to understand human action, we need empathetic understanding and we need to see the world through the eyes of the actors who are doing the acting. So students, with this we end with our seekers after meaning. I hope you've understood this and I'm sure you'll be able to see the various practitioners who are around you who are practicing this paradigm. Thank you for listening to me and I hope whatever questions you have will be answered through the e-text. Please remember the list of references given at the end of the e-text will help you understand this module extremely well.